We are live. Ta-da! Welcome to another episode of the Mattriarchy. I am the host of today's episode, Matt Reese, and I'm coming to you from Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
All right, and I'm Cody
Whoa,
Fernandez
whoa,
from
whoa! We
Ironverse
got an
Comics.
echo. Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
No worries.
I didn't.
Let's
I
see.
had
Let's
it.
see.
Oh my goodness! I had it open on another window so that I could go ahead and
Share the link. I've done
share
that.
it. And then it was I didn't realize it was playing. So my bad.
That'll happen. That'll happen. Well, anywho, I am Cody from Ironverse Comics, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand why, but this is the first time I've had you on. But we've been tangentially acquainted for quite a while.
Yeah, honestly, we have. I get, through social media, through marketing, you get tangentially, acquainted to a lot of people over and over again, and I always do notice the same people who tend to like or engage the content we're putting out there, and I always appreciate being able to actually meet and speak with you guys.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've actually been meaning to try to get a hold of you for a while and just haven't. PK Conrad has joined us in the chat. I think this is his first time on my show as a viewer. We've had some lively and spirited debates in the past, and I always appreciate hearing his input.
Right on, right on.
So, let's see here. This is, of course, now. First of all, let me just ask, because I'm a little scattered at the minute, and I honestly, I don't want to get too much into it, but we had another guest scheduled to come on as well, and that's some old metalhead guy. I'm not sure how he likes to refer to himself, from Thrashers, but he couldn't make it. Kind of last minute, so that's a bummer. I was really looking forward to having him on, but no, not in the cards tonight.
It happens. It happens.
So you are in the middle of a crowdfunding right now. How is that going?
Well, not in the middle. We're on today. Actually, marked last week for Cactus Coyote. It's been interesting. We've played it a lot more professionally than I did with Jack Irons last year, and I don't know. The interest hasn't quite been there to the same level, but there's so many factors, and I'm just happy. The main goal, maybe, and what I think is happened is we just have not gotten in front of enough people. I think that's always the main issue when you're crowdfunding something of something you believe in, something you've got a good quality to, and a reputation built.
So tell me a little bit about Cactus Coyote, because it's a little different than Jack Irons, and I haven't taken the appropriate amount of time to really dig in and process the properties, but it has an aesthetic difference that's just really upfront. Obvious.
Yeah. So originally it was pitched to me by Dollar Coins. That's the pseudonym he's going by. People know him as at Coyote Cactus on Twitter. He's also been kind of a co-editor for everything we're doing over at Ironverse Comics. But it was pitched to me a long time ago, a one-page little short, just for the heck of it. Ironverse Comics and Jack Irons was always planned to be a larger thing, something with multiple leads working in the same universe towards different but overlapping and paralleling goals. And I always wanted an alien in there, something different. Jack's on Earth and deals with the repercussions there. I needed something to be in space, and I just never came up with an idea I liked. And in strolls Dollar Coins with a great idea that's on theme with the Southwestern Coyote vibe, and has its own wacky style. And we went ahead and put together a 40-page free preview manga on Tapas, if anybody wants to see what we're kind of cooking with that before backing the more professional, fully done Western comic version. But Cactus Coyote, he is a shapeshifter, which are a very pure race of aliens that were hidden for a long time and then found by one very evil force, and he wanted to tool around and see what he can use them for. And the one use he found for a little cactus after he kidnapped him was as a garbage disposal. He put a pocket dimension in his stomach, and he just shoved all kinds of hazardous waste and all kinds of other things in him. Eventually, Cactus, before he's known as Cactus, escapes. Somehow befuddles his way through a galactic prison, through his prison. I guess would be more of a I don't know, a quarantine area, something like that. He gets his way out of there and starts trying to find his new identity because he's no longer what he was, and he's something new, and he's a very young thing. And so he's trying to figure out what he is in this galaxy, and he runs afoul of the closest thing to freedom in Ironverse comics in the space, which is criminality. So he falls on the gambling ends. He finds he's really good at getting in and out of places with things. And so he carves himself what he would call a legitimate business out of what can be smuggling, human trafficking, other things. But in terms of trafficking, it's more moving people from place to place they're not supposed to go, not so much slavery and such. He's more on the gray end of that. Gambling's a big one. Gambling's probably his top vice and is his main motivation throughout the series is to pay his constantly accumulating debts. And he accumulates debts trying to pay off other debts.
I love that idea. That seems to be entirely too much the way I've lived my life.
I get that.
Accumulating debts to pay off other debts. Now, one of the fun ideas about that I dig on is this idea, the establishment, right? That's one of my. That's why I enjoy hearing about that. Is it like a big trans empire out there in space? He's up.
Well, Ironverse Comics is built on, I usually say 4 pillars, which is kind of the introductory, which are the 4 horsemen, these 4 manifestations that will manifest on a planet when that planet reaches a certain level of what they embody, of what their thought form is. Earth was one of the few in Jack Irons, and Jack Irons number 2 in particular is one of the few that you'll see manifested all 4. Most will manifest 1, and that 1 will take over and then join any previous manifestations in space. And they are the 4 horsemen. That's what people will be used to them. In space, they're called 4 horrors or 4 anything else. It's just the 4. They are the primary driving force of every character in Ironverse Comics. They're opposing them in some way, or maybe working for them in a few cases. But those are the primary 4. But there's also a 5th, which is the Galactic Government, which was the only thing to be able to carve a niche outside of those 4. And Spinaroonie Town, the main hub of Cactus Coyote, takes place even outside of that. They are the criminals who work under all of them, who have worked their deals, have worked their positions of power, that it's better to work with them than fight against them between all 5 of those powers. And so it's kind of it's a middle hub. There's a hope on Spinaroonie Town that you can make yourself from nothing become something worthy in a galaxy just full of crap, where most worlds are just hell worlds or literal hell worlds. If people are familiar with Warhammer 40k, Ironverse Comics is very much a grim dark universe, and Cactus Coyote is the Looney Tunes mania injected into a grim dark universe. And I just love what Dollar Coins has been doing with the scripts, and what we did with the manga, and what we're doing with this Western comic, and with the artists we've been able to team up with to produce it. It's a really good looking work.
And so you're offering. You've got, of course, the original offering there on Tapas.
Yeah.
Do you have a link for that so I can share it in the chat?
Yeah. How do you want me to get you that link?
Well, if you put it in the private chat here, then I can just copy and put it over into the other one.
Oh, perfect. Right here, copy that. And get it on over to StreamYard here. Chat with, there we go. And that is the link right there. The shiftiest and shadiest Cactus Coyote. That was it started off as a 16-page short. Well, it started off as a one-page short that he did by himself to kind of pitch me the idea when I was talking about what I was trying to do with Ironverse, and he before it was called Ironverse, it didn't even have a name. But with that, evolved into the manga where he started doing a few pages to really pitch it to me, and it took us a good 8-9 months to put together that 40-page preview manga. I did the very fan-looking, fan translation-looking lettering, but I think it adds to the feel of the manga, and really does help communicate with everything else. And it was a lot of fun doing that, and that was just on our spare time. And since then, I've just fallen in love with Cactus Coyote's character and the character and the story arc that comes along with him. And I really want people to be able to see it as I have, and much better as we keep involving killer artists like Andrea Boscolo, who's doing the line art on the Western adaptation, and Stephen Cannon, who did both the colors for Jack Irons #2 and is doing the coloring for Cactus Coyote.
Well, I know the coloring for Jack Irons 2 that I have seen has just been phenomenal looking stuff. That's just sharp, the perfect blend of saturation and tone. I just really like it.
Yeah, he's got a very good talent, and I was very stoked to see. My main worry about using him again, you want to work within your team, getting the money around, but you want each piece to stand out. And my worry was that he'd make it look too much like Jack #2, but he was able to. Jack has a grittiness I really insisted on, a very strong texturing to everything, and he was able to make this more glossy. So I was happy to see it. It looks more kind of tech, more fun, more cartoony, which is exactly what Cactus Coyote needs.
It's got kind of a Tex Avery aspect to the action, anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now this is one of those things where I should know, and I don't. Forgive my ignorance here. But Jack, of course, is set in the future, right? All set, sometime out there. How direct a relationship to our real life timeline is this?
So Jack is set in what I loosely call 2076. I just wanted to put that extra little layer of revolution to the date with Jack. Cactus Coyote's more. I don't want to hard date it. We're going to get away with that by using galactic dates in Cactus Coyote if we're going to date anything. But the current arc is about 20 years apart. So it's about 20 years in the future you're seeing Cactus do his thing. And Jack's already established in space at that point. The galaxy knows who he is and has been making precautions and adaptations. And you can kind of feel that throughout Cactus, but of course it's Cactus's story, and it's a large galaxy out there. So you don't hear too much about the connection between the two until we get there. And we definitely want to establish both characters before we start doing the other crossovers. And there is 5 characters. With Jack Irons #2, I actually introduced the third character right at the tail end, and he'll feature prominently in Jack Irons #3. And you folks can kind of see really see the universe we're building. And if you're able to look at Cactus at the same time, then way more so, especially as space starts creeping into Earth, and the interactions and such that Jack's having. I think that could make a very huge difference. But, 2 fun titles. Extremely excited to get both out there however we end up doing it. With Cactus, we are, of course, pretty far behind on funding that, but we got a week left, and magic can happen in a moment. But if it was not to fund, we do have other plans to move forward, and it won't be the last you see of them no matter what. But the best way to help us move forward, of course, would be to help us fund it. And, I'm always happy to talk about that.
Yeah, indeed. So I forget here, and I've looked at the campaign, but I do not recall, are you using a fixed funding or a flexible funding plan?
We are using a fixed goal. Because flexible would not allow us to do the work, and therefore you folks don't get anything. That's just not how we'd like to do it.
Right. Gotcha.
Whereas we could do flexible with like reprint campaigns, which is maybe the next thing we're going to do after is a reprint of Jack 1 and 2. But that's for down the road. We haven't figured that out yet. But I would like to, that's one area I find flexible okay because the product's already produced and you just need to know the numbers you need to order. And you just get a better profit margin the more orders you get, but you can build it in just fine and be safe with a flexible goal. Whereas on a big campaign, you're trying to get the funding. That's a lot harder. Cactus and I have funded the first 10 pages of Cactus Coyote, myself and Dollar, excuse me. And we're, you can see most of them completed. We haven't gotten the lettering done. We haven't found a letterer just yet. We're taking each piece at a time, really, because it's a hobby thing, and we are putting our own personal funds into doing that. But we wanted to make sure that these 10 pages get finished, and that's for other ideas. Plan C, I guess it would be, and. So we're building redundancies. We believe in Ironverse Comics, and I again just think we need to get it in front of more people.
Yeah, there is definitely that's making sure that people can the product. And I tell you, timing in this whole it seems to be such a huge issue too, about whether or not that people just like have it at the time. I mean, have the scratch at the time they have it, and they haven't already committed to getting something. The whole works and all of that.
Yeah, that's a big one, is trying to earn that in a very saturated market. I always refer to it as the cacophony. It's just these loud noises and bright lights. Everybody's trying to sell you something, and it's you got to find a way to pull somebody aside and then communicate your message, and that's very difficult if the product maybe isn't clicking with them on first sight, or if again, as you're saying, they're committed elsewhere, and even though they'd like to, it is what it is. One of the things, excuse me, that we tried to do with this campaign is we lowered the entry price. You can get a physical issue for $5 and $5 shipping domestically. So $10 and you can get your choice of cover, and you'll get the 40-page issue, and that's already cheaper than a lot of campaigns out there. But you can upgrade to get more goodies. We didn't want to also leave that option out. We've got a decent spread of backers throughout the tiers, which was kind of nice. The heavier tiers didn't click yet, hopefully, but I think we covered our bases very well. Again, it's communicating it and getting people excited, and even then getting them moved to spending, and even then them having the ability to be moved to spend. That's always going to be the trial of the salesman and the self-funded creator.
Absolutely. So when it comes to Cactus as a character, you said he's becoming a great favorite of yours. What particularly makes him a great favorite?
Excuse me?
Oh, I said you had mentioned that Cactus is becoming a great favorite of yours. What is it that makes him? What is it about his character that makes him a favorite for you?
Well, he's a jerk, but he cares about things, and it's implied very. I don't know. It's done very well. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of interpersonal connections that are woven into the storyline. I've really appreciated. There's another character called Rad Cat, which is basically his other half. It was one of the others that were stolen and experimented on, and that relationship is very unique. Again, these are like they basically grow up in dog years, so they grow up very fast, but they're still very young and still very naive. And that bit really resonates with me. The other bit is he's a very kind of a shonen manga style hero. He has transformations. He has limits on those transformations. He has terms on how and when he can use them. And they're usually, since this is a gag, it's a sillier book. They're usually pretty funny. Swallowing a starship engine and then ramming a pipe into his back to power his little tin can starship to just blow away from the cops. That was a great bit. That's in the manga. If you folks check it out. There's another one where he has to swallow this battery to get it to a derelict cyborg kaiju body, and he's got to plug that into him, and just the whole bit of how he expels the battery is it's pretty hilarious. There's it's a lot of physical gags with his body and his shape shifting bits. That really endeared him to me. The attitude, as I said, and really the themes and tones that Dollar Coins is exploring throughout the scripts I've read. It's a great book. I really want to see it out there, but time will tell. Time and support will tell. Oh, you're muted, buddy. Yeah, you're muted. Through Streamlabs. No worries.
I
There
was
we
coughing
go.
and forgot what I was doing.
Oh, no, I've done that too. I've actually done that during gaming streams and then left the mic off and a good 40 minutes of silence.
It's great.
You
It's great.
know, during
So
the
anyway,
final
you
bit.
were saying that Dollar Coins is doing a lot of the scripting on this one. What is it like, the different writer in your universe?
Oh, I was just happy to see it expand. It's like when I see fan art, except we're able to integrate and use it, and I just love the ideas he's done. He's helped carve a lot that actually ended up into issue 2. He did some original storyboards for issue number 2 that my artist kind of looked at. Also, so he influenced issue 2 of Jack quite a bit, just from the looks. He's been a co-editor with me, bouncing ideas back and forth and such, and so it's really been a work between him and I at this point. I started it, I set the foundations and a lot of the boundaries, but then we're able to play in this playground and widen it within those boundaries as far as we can go. And there really is no upper limit with what we were able, what we want to do with this and what we have planned, and the angles I've been working and we've been working, but it just takes time and persistence and quality, and then of course letting people know those things and praying that they're interested enough to support it. And with that, it's fun being able to bounce those ideas and help shape that. Doing it by myself, I would have lost a lot of the magic we've been able to put into it, and I'm seeing come together, just even with Jack number 2 going out, and with this campaign, and by doing the manga and writing a few other scripts for other characters and getting the artists for those characters. There's a great interpersonal creation engine behind Ironverse Comics, and I'm so proud to be part of it. And honestly, to be the primary voice of it too, that's a trip for me. But there's I enjoy comics for the collaborative art. I get to how I write for comics is I do a script, and that'll do the story. Then that'll go to the artist. Primarily so far, it's been Maxi Dallo, who did the line art for issue 1 and issue number 2 of Jack, and then he'll redo the art. He has complete leeway to redo panels, add panels, rotate how he wants, make something a double page spread instead of a single, any of that. And then I just rewrite to that because I love the back and forth, because I find that allows you to create a lot more than you can yourself. And if you're already working collaboratively, you might as well leverage that collaboration the best you can if the team allows that. And so far, that's what I found with everybody I've worked with. I give them the idea and they deliver something much better. It's different, but it's much better. And
So do you
I really
do full
appreciate
script?
that. Excuse me?
Do you do full script when you write it up, or do you do like a story breakdown?
I do a full script. I do a full script, panel by panel, page by page, panel by panel. But what I found, which is kind of fun, also I liked about comics, is with every writer, comics writer that I've conversed with and exchanged scripts with and read and kind of played around with, written with as well. Everybody has a different format. And I just love that because it's a new interpretation of doing the same thing, and it's they all work in their way, and I love that. I love that about art, and I love that again the collaborative bit in comics really allows that to exemplify, to shine and get polished. Whereas movies and stuff, you can do the same thing as long as the team's intimate, but a lot of that's lost otherwise in large productions. And you'll feel that even in mainstream comics these days, you lose a little bit of the personal touch where the writer needed it to be this way. The artist better deliver that way. And so you see two clashing things, and even if they kind of fit together, you don't get the communication and you don't get the phenomenon of a really good comic.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. I think it's really fun having that meeting of the minds. I don't know how much you're familiar with. Also, I put up on the screen that PK is leaving us.
Oh,
So
thank
good
you,
night,
PK, for
PK.
being here. Thank you, thank
Yes,
you.
appreciate you coming in for sure. And Easy Bake Coven joined us. I don't know if he's still here or not. Um, looks like maybe not, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But anyway, fine. Um, but anyway, one of the things that I don't know how familiar you are with my projects that I'm involved in, but we got started way back in 2005, and I'm from Western Nebraska, and I've got uh, a buddy who I lived in this town with in our sleep, a rural city that and we were both really into comics. Both of us really wanted to write. We're really artists, and just kept trying to work at the stuff like that, and coming up with scripts to pitch to indie publisher companies and even the big guys, and it just kept getting again and again and again. And we had a practice, Chris and I back in the day, of we'd meet once a week and just go over each other's scripts for the previous week and kind of, oh, what can we do to make this pitch a little better? What can we do to tweak the story here? How can we change up our pitch letters to try to give them a little more zing? Um, and we ended up realizing that these stories had this similar themes that would go back and forth, and these ideas in terms of even the aesthetic of the stories, right? And so we realized that it wouldn't take much to be writing in a single universe, right? And all of our little superhero adventure stories, if they could take place in the same universe, and it wouldn't hurt anything. It might even make it better. And so that's when we decided to start planning things that way. And it was within 6 months we decided to just go ahead and go for the gusto and try the whole indie comic thing. And we built a whole world and alternate history around those same kind of things. And so that's was something I have appreciated, and we've been at for a very long time with very, very, very little success in terms of getting eyeballs on our projects. But we've got a webcomic, Force of Good and Evil, that we've been working on more or less since 2006.
Yeah, that's a
But
long time to grind at it. I
it really
think
is.
I've been at it for maybe a decade, just with from conception and scripting to actually getting it manifested. And I just got it manifested about 4.5, 5 years ago. We were able to. I was able to fund the black and white Jack Irons lines, and yeah. It's a hell of a grind. It sounds like you guys tried a lot longer than I did to swim the boat correctly. I gave up very quickly after I was putting out submissions and they weren't clicking, and that was
Yeah.
arrogance. That was definitely arrogance. But it led me to realize, I don't really need them. It would be great to have them, but it's not a necessity. Let's see what I can do, and that made a
Right.
big difference. It made a big difference.
And one of the things with our webcomic Forces I was talking about is that is like that's we've had been going on the longest, and it's got a pretty involved story that's developed through the years. But in the old days, it was just Chris and I, and like I said, neither of us are really artists. And if you go check out forceofgoodandevil.net, we're actually reprinting old stories because we've just migrated the server, and rather than try to go through and upload everything all at once, we're actually going through story by story. So every week we're doing a new story out of the archives. News story. And with that, it's got some, it's got some art, some writer level art in there, and but it was we just wanted to get our ideas out there, and just try to let people know what our universe was, um, and and with that, we've been able to we've had a few print projects where we've been able to get a real artist to come along and work with us. And through the years, also, Forces itself had a couple different artists that have stepped in, but we're still telling the story. And what the premise of Forces of Good and Evil, is it's about two mismatched lifelong friends who, in their junior year of high school, get sent to supervillain and superhero high school. The goody two shoes get sent to supervillain school, and the kind of a blowhard bully gets sent to hero school, and it just sort of wackiness ensues at that point. So that's kind of what we've done with that, and Fish Out of Water, high school dramedy. Chris once said that if we were gonna that he thought the pitch for the story would be X-Men meets Saved by the Bell, and
Okay.
that's one of the things we do. But it's been, like I said, we've been at it for a while, and just trying to just tell that story, because I mean the characters we created are really engaging for us.
Yeah, no, and you've got to be able to communicate that love that you have for your work, and obviously, yeah, you are able to. I'm intrigued by Forces. I'm gonna have to check that out. Conceptually, just the idea sounds very fun. Kind of feels like Megamind teen years, but actually like a good guy in the wrong place and a bad guy in the quote unquote right place, and
So,
that sounds very. It sounds extremely engaging.
well, and like one of the questions I asked me quite a while ago, he said, "So these are public schools, these kids do?" And I said, "Yes." Why does the government why does the government fund a supervillain school? I said, "You'll just have to keep reading." And
Yeah, yeah,
that's actually,
yeah.
right now, the story of what we've done when we migrated the server. We've got the first, I think, 10 stories that are up right now. It's been 10 weeks since the migration. But the story, in the background, we're doing weekly updates, a page a week, to the most recent story, which is called Panic at the Ren Fair. And with that one, it deals with some of those questions as it moves on. But it's really interesting too, because the time frame in that story is, that it's the summer of 2005 for these characters, and all of our stories. We've got stories back in the golden age. We've got stories up to the modern era, and they're all. We've got some stories back in the 1800s, but they're all along a fixed timeline, right? So we wanted to avoid the trap that Marvel and DC set for themselves, where they have to kind of rewrite history every so often, because their characters age, but not really, and that whole thing. So we wanted to give a fixed timeline where people actually die, and people actually have kids, and people actually move on. Um, and one of the so the most recent story is August in 2005. And so the kids are getting ready to start their senior year in high school, and we've got mapped out, the senior some stuff that goes on senior year, actually pretty much all of senior year, and it's going to end with a big reveal about why there are hero and villain schools. And so that's one of the. I don't know how long it'll take to get to that story, but that's been stuff we're on. So
Yeah, I can understand having those long-awaited plot lines just hanging there for a while you're working out and getting there. Um,
mm,
I, I love that. It's good to know where you're headed so that you can get there. I mean, that's a lot of people uh, don't, and then they don't get anywhere. They spin their wheels, and a lot of people focus too much on it also, and then they get lost in the trees instead of getting through the forest. And
Yeah,
it's
and
a
we
hard
have
balance.
lots of.
It's a hard balance.
It definitely is. And one of the things to look at is we actually do have lots and lots of content. So if people are interested in just sitting down and power stuff, we'll keep you busy for a long time as long as you can handle mediocre black and white art.
Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, it doesn't matter too much as long as that story is engaging and can find
I
a
think so.
place in somebody's heart to connect with and make them want to continue and find what's happening to these people, what's going to happen to this world.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a big factor.
Yeah.
So, what was it that kind of first got you into comic books? What was it that kind of drew you toward that?
When I was younger, I don't know. If you see when I was younger, I saw the Fox Kids animated shows. That was my introduction to superheroes. X Men animated, Spider Man animated, Batman animated series. Those vibes. And that got me introduced, but I wasn't into comics at that point. A few years later, I had a very good friend introduce me to a Punisher comic. I remember it very well, and no idea that kind of character could be spread, drawn, and engaging and such like that. I had watched movies with that, but those were always kind of they felt taboo as this dark hero going around murdering things and when I found out what the Punisher was and how engaging the concept of a celebrated serial killer, but with these military heroic background, he still got to run into a fire to save a kid. He still had that to him. I found that really engaging and just trippy that this medium could do that. And so that led me down to Marvel, and I looked at the stuff I knew. I was like, okay, this is good, but it's just more of what I've already seen. Punisher was something I hadn't seen. So then I kind of looked into other darker ends, and that led me to Ghost Rider, which led me to the Road to Damnation run that Garth Ennis did, which led me to Garth Ennis Punisher. But the Road to Damnation run that Garth Ennis did with Clayton Crane, the art is incredible. Clayton Crane is a master of the digital art for that, for paneling, for tone, for supernatural. I don't think you could get any better artist on a book. He does really good Venom stuff too, but the visuals on that were just so engaging to me, so powerful. It hooked me right on comics, and so I just kept digging, like, what else is here? What else is here? And it led me to Hellblazer. It led me to a lot of other stuff, and then I went back and I read some Thor and stuff, and I kind of integrated everything I liked, and it really just took that first viewing of a Punisher comic, coupled with the animated series, introducing me to heroes, superheroes in particular, superhero storytelling, and that was not hard for me to enjoy. And eventually I knew, I was like, maybe it's I could write plays and stuff as a kid. I don't like prose format. I don't really like long-winded writing. I do it every so often. I'll do an article or something, and it's fine. I enjoy it. Since it's on my terms, it's a little bit more enjoyable. But I just never really liked that. And with scripting, I can just communicate the idea very quickly. It doesn't even matter if it's communicated too well, because the artist is going to translate it anyway. So I need to wait and see what they come up with, unless it's completely left field and unexpected, which isn't what most artists will do when they're given a script to draw off of. Then I'm happy with what they come back with and can rework actual nice, more lyrical, more poetic writing to those pages that would fit the tone better than the tone I had communicated to him that was being translated anyway. And so that's what attracted me, and working in them has kept me, is that collaboration. But it really was the heavier tones and themes that I had not seen as a kid, except explored in action movies and science fiction movies, explored in a reading medium with just wonderful talent and artistry behind it. That's got me hooked for life.
I think I'm probably in a minority on back to talking about Garth Ennis. Side, just a little side note. I'm probably in a minority here, but I actually think that his Punisher, while it's good, it's just not Hitman. And I think that Hitman is just a better writing on his behalf. I think it's got more to offer thoughts of it. It made it's I suppose probably less gritty, but it's not less violent, if that makes any sense.
No, I get you.
Yeah,
No,
I
Ennis
just
injects that dark humor into it, which can be very deadpan dark humor. It's just
yeah.
straight up. This is horrible. Either laugh or move on.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And a lot of people don't enjoy that, and that's literally his tone of writing. The most recent thing I've read of his was Sarah by TKO Studios, and that was outrageous. He's really in his element with military writing, and that was more of a historical piece, so he had more of a clamp on how he was presenting things. There wasn't any humor. It was very much like a very well adapted a movie. It was a movie piece. It was very cinematic in how it was portrayed, but it was about a squadron of Russian snipers, female Russian snipers at the towards the tail end, and basically a bunch of stories within this woman Sarah, her tales kind of told through memories and through movement and such. Wonderfully done. That's one of my favorite pieces. Him, Elizabeth Breitweiser of the Breitweisers of Batman fame and quite a few other books. She did the colors, and no colorist does an explosion with as much passion as her. And so tank explosions and grenade explosions in that book are just wonderful. The talents that went into it were really good. It was very much TKO Studios' launch title, and they put a lot of weight behind it. But ignoring that end and focusing on the artistry end, it's a wonderful book. But Garth Ennis on Nick Fury also I really liked, on Fury Max. But again, I liked Welcome Back Frank when he revived the character after they made him an angel who could pull guns out of his trench coat. I wasn't a big fan of that. But the Unlimited series run, I collected all of it. I have the original, one through, oh God, I don't remember the finishing number. It's going to bug me. It's close to 400. I don't think he reached 400. And Chuck Dixon's work on it is always really good. Mike Barron's work on it feels more of an older action movie feel to it, but Frank was more calculated. He was less into the cruelty, just getting the job done on the Unlimited series. Whereas Garth Ennis, there's masochism in there. He wants to hurt things, and even though he has it kind of clamped down, it's nowhere near the same Frank that's in that original Unlimited series or even Circle of Blood, where he wanted the folks to suffer, but it was more to end them, less to make them suffer. And yeah, it's a definitely a different. It's a change of tone, and they both serve their place. I'm a fan of the dark humor. I tried to put a little bit of it in Jack, just to liven up the brevity and contemplations on an infinite life of pain. So,
Yeah, I do really like dark humor. Coen Brothers, all that kind of stuff. I am a just big fan. The one issue I have with it is if it's not done right, it's horrible. So
very true.
It's one of those things where, like, if you don't post just like cheap edgelord stuff, I don't use a lot of dark humor. I use a lot of dry humor when I write stuff, or absurdity, because like it's one of those things where I don't think I've got the chops to pull that off right, you know?
Yeah, and all art is taking risks, though. So if you feel you
Yeah.
got something that's funny, something that's horrible, something that's both, and you want to get it out there, do it. At this point, it's otherwise, you're kind of letting a very interesting expression die. Whether or not it's a good expression, that's for the observer or whoever to determine for themselves. But for you as an artist, that's something I like to do. If it's something I believe in, I'll put it in, and I don't go very heavy with it. Issue number 2, there's an alien who gets his head blown off in the background while Jack's just talking, and he doesn't care. He's just going to keep on his story, and you have this, somebody's arrested and all these things in the background, and eventually you see him mopping up his own head. He's still got in trouble for getting shot. And he's gonna live. Just little bits like that. It's implied in the background. And there's another bit where it's just a bad pun at a dark time that I kind of enjoyed in issue 2. And issue 1, the comedy was that he paid for his the damages that are going to be done to to the place, and the robot cyborg let him finish his drinks and finish talking before he started his crap. And it's just that whole vibe again. That was more absurdity, and I like playing with humor. I'm just again, I'm not very confident in it myself, so it's not a central theme, but with the dark central themes I really write in with all of these books, um, it's very much needed some kind of brevity. Um, and even then, yeah, it's got to be well placed and well timed, or it could really ruin the pacing. It can ruin the moment. It can ruin the enjoyment of the reader, because why did you do that awful thing? It's not funny, or or that's so absurd it breaks whatever you were doing before. Why'd you do that? If they're questioning how it happened or the moment or the tone, then your humor's gonna just fall, and you're not going to accomplish what you're trying to do with it. So again, it's always a balance. You got to be brave and bold, but you also have to be sure what you're doing. But you don't want to be 100% sure and then be wrong. So you got to be open to disagreement even within yourself. And we all just got to take the risk and roll those dice when we feel it's right.
Yeah. And that's one of those things too, is talking about, how strong is your humor, right? I think that's one of the things that's really great about working in a cooperative team. People that kind of share the vision, the universe for the story, understand what you're getting at. Because then when you run past them, you can kind of get from there, and they kind of feel how that's. I think that's one of those things that you out if you didn't have the cooperation community to work on, then having that on there, because you don't. How do you gauge how funny it is? You know how funny you think it is, but you know.
Yeah, really, you can make yourself laugh. Depending on the person, okay, I can make myself laugh pretty easily, depending on the mood I'm in and the what's causing it. But really, you can't guarantee you can make anybody else laugh at any given time, and especially
Sure.
reading, that's very difficult. And that's one thing. I'm gonna bring it back, just because it's what you do when you're shilling. Cactus Coyote, dollar coins. He's wonderful at placing the gags in there. Every joke he's tried with me has landed greatly. Always chuckling just reading the scripts and picturing it. Just weird little bits he does to describe the visuals he wants at the time, or Cactus's reaction to something. Cactus is very blusterful. He really acts like he's the best out there, and it's out of it's another mask. He's a shapeshifter. It's another mask because he's terribly unsure what he's doing, but he's just running forward with it anyway. And to make sure he can keep running, he makes sure it's a very powerful, strong run, very blustery, very very boastful, and the jokes that he's able to pull off with the first arc of Cactus Coyote in the Western adaptation is called Q Racer. It's Wacky Racers meets Mad Max meets I don't know, something in space. Red Line also is an anime. It very much influenced it, but it's just he runs this junk car and they're interviewing everybody else is rich and put these crazy things together. Again, since it's a manga, the character models, and once you get into space in Ironverse, the species and the visual dynamic changes quite a lot, and it gets very extravagant or very bleak. And at this point, everything's really extravagant. And then you get to his piece of junk car. He's only there to do something else, not win the race. He's not 100% sure what he's supposed to do until they're going to tell him during the race. And he's just getting interviewed, and he's got his ass hanging out the door that won't open because he's trying to flick some switch or something when they come talk to him. And he bumps his head coming out, and then he goes in. He's talking about the car and such. And he's like, if I press this button, it'll boost. And he just gets a face full of windshield wiper fluid. There's just the timing in it was great. Just reading the script, and I want to see an artist's interpretation to get the pacing right, because once you get to layout, that can change a lot. But within script, the timing was great with what led up to it, and then what it hits, and then it kind of lets you simmer down back into the story. That's another thing. Sometimes humor just hits you in the face, and then it leaves you with nothing. And you want it to kind of feel it's a beat. It's an upper beat in the story, and it's gotta hit right, not too hard, not too quick, not too short, not too long. That's a big one. Going too long with a gag really is one of the best ways to kill one. And it's a tough one again that I don't tackle much except for when I feel there needs to be brevity in what I am tackling. But dollar coins and what he's doing with Cactus Coyote, it's a central theme because there's this manic depression that kind of is running through all of his angle of the Ironverse, and it's you're watching these people, these things, these beings work through these. Most of them it's an identity issue or a goal that's integral to their identity, and trying to find a communication and trying to better this grim dark universe through it. Some of it's bettering by circumstance more than by goal, and I would say Cactus Coyote is definitely one of those characters. He's going to be put in places that'll better things more than he's actually out there to do better. And again, that's those circumstances, those things. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing more explored in the future.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So now you've talked about having kind of a big vision for the stories. How? I mean, have you gotten an endpoint mapped out at all, or how are you feeling that?
We've got an exit built into Jack's arcs if we have to, and that exit can really occur whenever. It would be after arc 1 of Jack, though, which hopefully is 5 issues, so already 2 fifths done. So that arc can end by itself with Jack, and if that's what's happening, then probably none of the other books have found an audience yet either. In which case we push it a different angle and we try different things. But the goal would be by that point that we're able to establish at least 1 or 2 of the other characters, and then we work from that. The goal is 4 of them are from Earth, so we finish a large Earth arc, which would be all of the 4 mains except for Cactus kind of working together and figuring out something on Earth and then escaping into space. And then we combine with Cactus, but honestly, the end button's built into Jack. The last arc is built into Jack and is integral to one of the 4 pillars, and he's the least implied pillar and the most quiet. And I'm excited to explore that and to hit that button, but I don't want to do it prematurely because that button really does it ends things, and we'll get there eventually. But my goal is as long as we can to run the wheels on this thing and to get as many quality stories out of the Ironverse that we can, because nobody's doing weird space westerns like we're doing, and they need to. We need more weird space westerns.
Now you're in a place too. I mean, you guys have signed up with Wicked. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, well, I have. Dollar Coins and I decided with Cactus Coyote to see if we can do it ourselves. Now, is that viable so far? I don't know. With Jack, I did do it mostly by myself. It's just we were able to add the print issues without me having that budgeted before. The Jack Irons campaign was very odd, and that people were willing to put their faith behind it is just wonderful, because it started off as digital only, and I never altered the perks. I simply added a disclaimer at the top that $25 or more would get you a printed issue, both printed issues. As soon as Wicked had contacted me and we worked out the contract and such, and that took a while. It was one of my first deep dives into a contract like that, and I took my time and hammered it out, tried to make it fair for both sides, and I think we came up with something that's decent, probably better than I would have gotten from most any other publisher out there, because I had some leverage. But it's I've been proud to work with Wicked. Wicked's now fulfilling issue number 2, and we were able to throw in a free 11x17 print of one of the 6 pinups that were funded through the campaign, which are in the back of issue number 2. But we also were able to print a big old poster of each of them, but each backer's getting a random of the 6. The goal is the old capitalist goal of give them something maybe they want that's next to something they really want, and maybe they'll go get what they really want still. This one's free. If you want one of the other 6, you can go. If you want all the other 6, great. You can go and get them. That's coming down later. But the prints, again, the campaign allowed me to collaborate with so many teams. There's 6 different teams for those pinups. None of them were part of Team Ironverse Comics except for Vince Rush, who did the inks on a piece that was just spoiled today because one of the backers got the poster. And he did it with Josh the Amazing Animator and Art Claude Bruce, who has recently become a member of Team Ironverse Comics, but he wasn't at the time we did that piece. Um, and it's just working with each team was very unique. There were two solo teams. Troy Torres, Mr. Marvel of Wampool fame, he did a pinup. I'm still waiting for a backer to spoil so I can spoil it and spread it around. He actually did three pinups, but it was one pinup. So he took our piece that we had, and there were two posters in the background, and so he even went into those posters and made those posters that are in the background as separate pinups. And that was amazing. It was very little contact with he and I, gave him what he needed, and eventually suddenly he just had that and a whole bunch of extra stuff, which was just incredible. So kind. And there was another one that was a little bit harder to work with, but that one took some fighting, but eventually I got the piece, and obviously it wasn't late. So it was late due on the deadlines we had signed for, but it wasn't late to get it out. So it is what it is. But it's a wonderful piece. He delivered a great piece. Another one I'm looking to get spoiled. I worked with J. Paul Sheik. He did Hush Ronin, works on Ashcan Publishing. He does a bunch of other good stuff. He did the inks on a Tracker Top Predator piece. Ginger Foxy from the Mythoverse is coloring, and Sporkman. She colors both Sporkman and Changeling. She did the colors on that piece. And 2D Spaceman, I believe the name is Paul Billick. He did the penciling for that same piece, and he's the colorist for Shinobi Sasquatch. So that's just one piece. I was so happy within those pieces to connect artists who wouldn't have worked together, and to see those artists also go out and be able to fund their own works that are just killer, and to have a small piece of their art be part of Ironverse Comics. It's really cool. There's one more piece by Von Klaus of Monster MD and Narwhal Books of Earthbound. And they did another piece that I'm looking to spoil here once it gets spoiled. But I was able to work with some great talents. Colorado Rowe, he did the line art. So I think that's all of them. He did the line art, and S.E. Tonks, wonderful colorist, did the coloring on a Four Horsemen piece, and that's been spoiled for a little bit too. That was the first one to get spoiled. We spoiled it when we were spoiling the what the books look like, and a nice little picture Wicked was doing, so to show that we had them, and we're about to ship them out. And anyway, I just so many wonderful talents I've been able to connect with and get them to contribute a little bit to the Ironverse and the Ironverse image, and a few of them ended up working with us on further projects that are in the pipeline, and a little bit of concept work's been done, but it's mainly in the pipeline. We're trying to walk before we run. Cactus was a attempt to sprint, and we're still seeing if that'll work. But at this point, it seems like a more measured approach will be what we'll take in the future, with a heavier reliance on Jack. But overall, the experience has been magical, and it's only been because of our contributors that have been able to work with these amazing talents, get them a paying gig, and be able to share these talents with the world through this silly ass concept I came up with years ago. I'm just so again proud, but humbled to be able to have connected with those people and work and just be able to enjoy making comics. That's a hell of a
And
thing
that
that I
actually brings
really
up
didn't think I'd get to,
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. It's one of those things where you don't always understand. It's kind of a dream, and then when it's happening, it's real. Once you step back from the keyboard or the drawing pad, long going, you all of a sudden realize you're in the middle of magic, and that's an interesting little feel. Carl's Amateur Hour just showed up. I don't know if you're familiar with Jack, but he's awesome. I love his. He's got a very LZ Seeger style to his stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen him. He's a pretty constant liker and retweeter. Again, I always notice the people who continue to do that because I do try to market as often as I can, and I'm always looking through and I enjoy seeing the same faces and such, enjoying our content and supporting it because that means somehow what we've put together has connected with this person enough that they want to support and help it continue to grow, and that's again, like you're saying, you wake up in the middle of magic, and that's just one of the many things you can notice that will remind you that you're there. And I just love that. Also, Matt C, who I've seen a little bit too. He says Steel Cowboy sounds lit. Love the art. I love the art too. And if I say so myself, it is very much lit. I've really enjoyed the 2 issues we've put out so far. Issue number 3 is sitting with the artist, waiting for a go ahead. He wanted to start before we started the campaign, but funding's always the thing. I don't have a bankroller. I have wonderful supporters, and got to make sure and earn them again for that. And we'll be working on that. I believe end of this year, beginning of next year, maybe into spring. We'll be dealing with Jack number 3 because I really want to get that out. ASAP. I don't want people, expect 1 a year. Technically, this was 2 a year. We got issue 1 out in January this year, but issue 2 had a lot of stumbles, a lot of learning. Issue number 1, we kind of faked it a little bit more than I thought we did, even with just the format of the coloring. But by issue number 2, reach and print, I've learned a lot. I've been forced to learn a lot, and I've been proud to. But my hopes are that those lessons stick with me, and it will just increase our productivity and the ability to get these out quicker. And a lot of the things were out of my control, but that happens. And as long as folks continue to be as patient as our backers have been, I mean, I had 425 people, and I got 1 refund request, and he didn't want a refund because he didn't want the book. He wanted a refund because he needed the money at the time.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. Also, the lack of vitriol that our project has received has been incredible. If people don't like it, they've really kept their mouths shut, which is odd. Usually somebody just doesn't like it because nobody else is not liking it. But
Right.
so far, the people who have engaged with it and supported it, especially so far, have really enjoyed the work, and I've been really happy to see issue number 2 get into people's hands, finally finishing this damn campaign. I love it, but I've been so upset with the constant setbacks, and I'm happy to be able to put round 1 behind me so I can go into round 2 knowing what I'm up against. And knowing the moves, knowing when to bob and weave, and when to punch hard, when to hold back. The only reason I was able to learn and stick in that round 1 was because of wonderful supporters throwing their money behind something that sure had a 24-page free preview read, but a lot of people didn't check that out. A lot of people just like the concept and the art and the atmosphere that we had cultivated, and that's a hell of a thing. Especially with the price tags that we as independent creators had to and continue to have to put behind these books to get them made, get the artists paid a decent wage, and to get these books printed and shipped. It's a hell of a thing, and I couldn't have done it with, as you said, without Wicked Publishing handling the fulfillment and printing end of this. I don't even know if we funded enough to be able to do that. But here I am anyway. Here we are putting the books out. Plenty of people have put their faith behind it and have enjoyed the books. And man, do I hope to put out those next 3 next year. That would be so great if we can just knock out this first arc next year. But we'll see. We'll see. So far, the energy is still behind it. Still getting the fan art. Still getting the engagement and the people. Ooh, what is this? And that's every time you get that. Every time you feel that, engage with that. It's just one more brick in that wall that'll hopefully keep you in place and keep you from straying off and losing sight. And very proud, very blessed to be able to have that in what we're doing.
Yeah. No. So back up the question train just a little bit because there's something I meant to ask you a while ago. We got off on a tangent.
Oh,
Um,
ha.
no, it's fine. I derailed us. That's what happened. We were talking about this, and I want to talk about how much you like Hitman. Um, but you said you got into comics. What made you want to write them?
Again, it was just it was really that Road to Damnation Ghost Rider arc. It was the pairing of art to how Ennis was communicating a very underappreciated, very all over the spectrum on quality written character. Ghost Rider can be some of the worst reads ever, or some of the best, in my opinion. And Road to Damnation was my introduction to the good end, and just that attitude and what he was able to communicate. I was like, I want to be a part of this somehow. I can't draw. I've written plays. I've written before. What? How can I do this? Oh well, duh. I'll just write a script and get it out of my head, and that's what I did. I wrote the first 5 issues of Jack, probably in a night or two. I feel like it was one night, but I don't want to be wrong there. It didn't take. It was very quickly. I wanted to get the idea out, and I just never gave up on it and took every opportunity to advance it. As far as what got me into writing, it really was Garth Ennis's writing and the entertainment factor I got out of it that I wasn't getting out of reading novels. I wasn't getting out of reading a few other books. It was just like, oh, this is what I enjoy. I'll keep reading this. And eventually I just fell in love with the medium and wanted to participate. And the way I knew how to participate is writing.
So, what would you say you have a favorite genre of stories to work on, or
To work on. So I've written a couple shorts for Ashcan Publishing as well, and I've kept those in the Ironverse. So you can see I like themes. I like cyberpunk themes. I like dystopian themes. I like Western themes quite a lot. I like action and I guess I could change that. The violence, I tend to enjoy that. Again, it's these darker spectrums. I tend to really enjoy that. But writing within it, I try not to engage that too much. What I enjoy exploring self-contained, grandiose ideas. That's what I like, and so those ideas can take a lot of different forms. Again, why I enjoy Cactus Coyote is the humor is very grandiose, and it's different than anything I personally could write. Um, but I would like to write more humor. I'd like to try that. Basically, I would write anything that I'm inspired to. There's nothing I really would pigeonhole myself into, but I know where my comfort zone is, and it really is those heavier, grim, dark themes. And what I try to do is present that grim, dark theme, and then what guides whatever I'm telling is usually some small spotlight. And so I try to emphasize that spotlight and make it nice and bright, uh, even though you're shrouded in darkness. That's what I try to do, and I guess that would be a theme. But in terms of overall genres, I guess it would be science fiction. Is one of my favorites because it allows so much creativity. Fantasy I enjoy again because it allows as much creativity. I wouldn't be much of a like a Batman writer, for instance. I don't have that analytic detective mind. I wouldn't probably be a very good Punisher writer if I was trying to do a accurate military background on him, because that's what I would want out of him. So that kind of technical writing, I'm not great at either. So I guess it would fall into Star Trek also. Um, so there's some things I try that I don't know, but genre-wise, science fiction is my favorite. Westerns are right there, and really, in terms of my writing, it's those two. That's what everything's kind of combining to. The closest we're going to get to something else is with Jean Du, the Golden Monk, which is I guess our fourth title. And it deals more with spiritual overtones, but again, and it has a main character afflicted by a version of Alzheimer's, but he's guided by a spirit in the form of a bonsai tree through this Mad Max dystopian world. And so that has different themes, but I like exploring big themes through the darkness you see, and putting those big themes with a light on the way through, and that can fit into any genre. I would just need adequate inspiration to do so. But yeah, I really it's hard to say. I don't think I've written enough to really be able to define what I'm decent at. I don't even know with Jack number two, people really enjoy the writing, which has been surprising to me. But I still haven't gotten enough negative criticism to know where I suck. So I'm still waiting for that hammer to fall, and then I'll kind of know where to adapt and what to where my strengths lie, what to emphasize and what to work on.
That gives me an idea. No, I'm like okay. So about a month ago, we had Preston Poulter on. He was looking for people to do reviews of White Lily, and I pitched the idea of doing like a reading club conversation. And I had Carl guest host. We both read the promo copy of White Lily that he sent over, and then we had a discussion about our thoughts on the story, and then we brought Preston on to pitch it, and it was a really interesting format. Um, it might be interesting since you're looking for people to complain. I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm really, really good at complaining. Um, so that might be if you really want to get the writing picked apart, I'd be willing to do that. I could probably another another artist or in that as an experiment, and it might even make good TV.
No, that could be fun. That could very well be
Yeah.
fun. I believe Preston did a review of Jack Irons 2 relatively recently. It lasts about no, one and two. It was both of them. It lasts about 45 minutes. He really went in depth. He found more depth in that book than I thought I had put. So
No, that's
I would be very interested to hear somebody else go through that because from technical levels, I have ideas of where I can improve, but to have those ideas confirmed or twisted or shown in a different light or even new ones that I didn't pick apart myself, that's a very valuable asset.
well. I bought the issue one level on the two campaign because that's what the money I had at the time for the electronic. But I haven't read it yet because I'm a bad.
Oh,
But I know you would. I know you sent out the link for the second issue to all of the backers, and I
yes.
haven't downloaded it yet. So, with your permission, I'll see if I can't find another reader, and if that's cool, and if not, I'll just read it, and
No,
then
no, that's
maybe
fine.
we'll put that on the agenda for sometime in October.
That would be great. Just got we got I've got to keep getting the word out there, and I'm confident that you folks will enjoy the reads. And I would be very intrigued to hear what where the holes are
Mm.
from different perspectives. Because I pass it around the team. The team read issue two. Oh God, 4 or 5 months ago, and they enjoyed it. It's the team, so it's that thing, and so far it's been positive reviews, which is great. It's what it's what you hope for, but again, Ironverse comics, in particular Jack Irons, is still low on the main criticisms were that I can remember. Oh God, what was a little bit on pacing and with how I structure my story. That's the big one. That's the one I remember very well. Is it's structured pretty haphazardly. but I don't know. I don't know. I again, that would be great. That sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah. Well, not really speaking here, but I might be a Marmaduke fan if he'd be interested. I love his manga reviews, so that might be a fun one to tag team on. I'll have
Oh
to.
yeah, if you can get a hold of him, I love him.
Yeah.
He's done great stuff. I mean, he embroidered or burnt Jack into a piece of leather for one of his art classes, and I still have the photo for the fan art.
Yeah.
That
Sweet.
kind of stuff sticks with me, and he's a great artist. Love his speaking voice, his humor in his videos, and
Mhm.
the content he chooses to make too. There
Yeah.
was a good period there. He was doing Japanese fairy tales, and that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So no, that would be great.
He's the highest brow reviewer on YouTube, I think.
And then he goes ahead and does the lap cell phone reviews. I love it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and it's just like yeah. Just as far as his the intellectual quality of his review, it's up there. And he probably would argue with me about that, but it's just I don't. And I mean, and like, and what I mean specifically is like Doug Ernst, and I love Doug Ernst's content so much. Um, his very few of his stay on literary merits of the pieces. He loves to dig into the philosophical implications of and just really wheedle out pieces, and I love that stuff. It goes beyond even his reviews, go beyond being comic reviews to be discussions of vital matters. And Marmaduke has the capacity to bridge that line without crossing it. So it's still 100% a review, but it also is a review keeping in mind the and without crossing the line into the study of that. And so I think I love his reviews for that reason.
Yeah, no, I like that format too, and of course that's how I mainly, I write with the bigger thing in the background, mainly as the idea. So I appreciate folks who dig into it. For sure, but again, you don't want to get lost in the trees when you're trying to get through the forest, and I agree. Marmaduke's very good at being able to look at the roses but keep on moving.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I'll reach out to Marm, see if he's up for that. In any case, I'll find somebody and we'll do that in October. That'll be fun.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I that was honestly that was everything I had planned plus some. Because I wasn't too like complex in there. I was expecting three people. So I am out of talking points. And we have 30 minutes to fill.
Ah, that's fine.
So
I don't mind filling with you if you got topics of the day or any
yeah,
other
well,
questions.
man, I tell you what. Here's the thing: is like my topics of the day are just I can't even get into that right now.
Got it.
So,
Got
oh
it.
man, I don't know if you pay. I sometimes pay too much attention to Twitter because Twitter, of course, is like the ever clear. If the internet, if social media is alcohol, um, is grain alcohol. It's Everclear, and
Yeah.
it's it's the harshest, like most non-useful aspect of the internet. And today's been a very interesting day, full of people saying stupid things, and I got myself maybe too involved in discussing stupid people saying stupid.
Yeah, I've been dodging those landmines for about the last year and a half. Been dodging
Yeah,
those
well,
landmines.
and that's one
They,
of the things is there are
woo.
people that are just like, yeah, I'm not getting involved in this. It's a stupid thing. Uh, I'm not that kind of a person, and I've got a spirit that bends toward conflict. so
Yeah.
so I don't want to give myself the credit of saying I have a warrior spirit, but I'm definitely a fighter. And my weapon of choice is words. When somebody says something stupid, I back down. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Unless it has to deal personally with me or my work, I usually don't give two shits.
Mhm.
Just personally,
That's
it's just not worth my effort. I've got other places to put the energy. It's not so much I don't care or don't have an opinion. It's that it's just I've got other things that I put higher on the poll than explaining to some idiot what what I think of this and that mine is better. It's not worth my time. But
no.
a lot of people, sometimes it's not that. They don't perceive it that way, and it's not that to them. And if that's what somebody needs, then all power to them. I just it literally makes it extremely difficult for me to want to work in this space.
Mhm.
And I've had breakdowns. I burnt out a couple weeks ago, and I was almost ready to just throw it all fucking away because of the lines and the game you have to play um, to gain relevance in the current sphere. And I just don't want to play the game just to play the game. Even there's
No,
just
yeah, I get
nothing
that.
for it to me. It's just too many other things that I find of a higher value to me than correcting somebody else on something that I couldn't probably ever convince them of anyway. Um, but those fights, those discussions, hopefully more discussions than fights, but those fights, they're important. They do need to happen. There needs to be some kind of discourse, even if it's a very bad one, because if everybody went silent and kept didn't even try any kind of communication, even if it's negative, everything crumbles. So
Yeah.
I would prefer professionals to be professional. I would prefer um, toxicity on whatever spectrum from whatever angle to not be acidic to the touch, to the eyes. I would there's a lot of things I prefer, but me going in there and rolling down isn't gonna change that course. But neither is silence. So I totally get it. Just not my bag.
Yeah. No, and I really respect the ability of people who do disengage. I just don't think that, because here's part of the situation, and one of the things, this is my one of my frustrations that I'm dealing with. Not to get too much into the weeds, and I think I posted about this earlier today. Um, there's one of the big um, yesterday, earlier this week, I should say. I mean, one of the big refrains going across the Twitter was, why all the drama, right? Why all the drama? It's gotten so bad, and my take on it is that, well, it's 18 months into Drama Town. This is
Oh yeah.
we're neck deep in it. We have been for a year and a half, and if you're just now waking up to it, then what, maybe that's the problem. You know?
Yeah, no, I'm certainly not just waking. Yeah, I,
No, no,
I
I
I
know
get
you're not.
that. Yeah, no, I get that.
I know you're not. I mean, I
It's a
remember,
tough one.
I remember you and I think we were talking. I remember who. It may have been Brett. We were talking to in September, and you guys were both just like, "Yeah, I'm signing off of this nonsense. This is bullshit." And argue with somebody who says, that just, aging is the only way I'm going to maintain sanity. Uh, um, and not everybody's built to grit their teeth and charge against the castle walls of madness, right?
Well,
It's
yeah,
not
no,
just
and I even see a lot of people. My biggest problem isn't even with drama makers. It's drama makers who then take a day, a couple hours, and say, "I'm better than this," and put it out there. and then the next day, a week at best, it's just back to the same, and no hypocritical claims, nothing like that. It's just fine that they went back to who they were. They shouldn't have made the claim the big to get be you. That's fine, but don't try to be better than, and then try to flip flop back and forth. I don't. That part bugs me, and the other part is that I feel there's a marketing engine at work between a lot of this. It's
Yes.
something to maintain awareness. It's something to maintain attention, and it does that very well.
And the funny thing for me is like I know, and I have, um, I know there are some people that marketing engine that way, and I don't, if it works for them, I guess more power to them. But I firmly believe that there are, I'm a very small voice. I've got a loud voice, but I think you know what I mean. Um, there are two people watching the show right now, you know what I mean? And um, uh, with all of that, I think that there is I do believe there is a very likely chance that with our crowdfund that we just did, and with even our web comics that we put out, I think there's a very good chance that because um, uh, I take the stand that I have, I don't play for enemies. I will with anyone who I think is being saying something incorrect or fraudulent. I don't care who it is. And if you say, "Look, I don't want to talk to you," okay, I'll back off. But I I can't believe in truth and not hold anybody accountable. Just you know what I mean?
No, I
Um,
get that. No, that's good.
so
Again, like I said, there's a power and a strength there, and it's a good
and
thing. Again, that's what allows the dialogue, and you would hope that some creation is made out of that instead of destruction. But
yeah,
sometimes destruction is what's needed to lead to it. But
yeah,
I don't really even have to grit my teeth. When I'm watching this stuff go by at this point. It's awful. In terms of if you were a newbie in indie comics, you got onto Twitter and you're excited about this one title that happens to be more obscure and more towards where we're working, then what are you gonna see? Are you gonna see comics? I don't know, and that's what bugs me. You're coming to this sphere to look for comics, but that's not what you're getting. Now, a lot of people aren't coming to the sphere to look for comics. Comics are incidental, and I've been running a poll this week, about 450 votes now, to kind of see why people are here in indie comics, and it really is unique comics it has been holding close to 60%. It's been going from 57 to 55 back and forth, and then the other three reasons. Have been holding at that 45 to 48% range the whole time, and the other three regions were the culture war, we're being tired of the mainstream fatigue, or personalities and opinions. Engaging with these big folks for those reasons. And man, it literally is half your market. That's those other three things.
right.
And that's I wanted to. I'm glad I got such a huge sample base, because I wanted to see how much those other things, other than the work, matters to people, and it matters greatly. And so, not engaging that end, like I tend not to, is a oversight. It really is. But engaging it correctly is the tough thing. A lot of people are fine with engaging it, but they don't care how. And that's where I appreciate finesse. Appreciate artistry. I appreciate angling properly, and making a point with a very sharp point. Making a point. Too much carpet bombing these days is kind
Yeah.
of my main thing. It's just it carpet bombs to gain awareness, and they know there's going to be casualties, and that those casualties are what will help drive awareness, and that's good for the short term. I don't know if it can last for the long term, and I do think it is possible to create outside of that, and still be successful. It's just a much bumpier, tougher uphill climb, and we're gonna keep trying it here as long as I can, but it is very tempting to look on that other side and say, you know what, I could just mess with this person today and I would get more awareness. And it's not my thing. It's not part of who I am. And
See, and
even if it's
that's
somebody who's messing with other people, which is a big one, there's a lot of bullies
yeah,
out there, and you're going to defend. Again, if it wasn't just words, that's a bit. That's the line. Words, free speech. You can say whatever, and I don't have to engage it. I can engage it. Both options are wonderfully viable, and I am so glad I have the option not to. more than more than uh, more than doing otherwise. And again, though, dialogues need to happen. However, whatever form. Once the talking stops, is when we're in big trouble.
yeah. I agree, and I guess that's part of my personal pet peeves on the subject is dishonest dialogue, where people holding themselves, um, or people are holding themselves to their own standards, or when people are moving the goalposts of those standards around, and that's one of those things where I don't understand. I can understand having different opinions, right? I like one of my relatively unpopular opinions that I hold is that it's unpopular because I think people aren't willing to deal with the ramifications of the story of the opinion, and it's that I think that all stories are intrinsically political, but I don't mean like who's running for senate or how much taxes or tax rate. I mean that politics is the business of people in community, right? And
Yeah.
just like we have gender politics, you have race politics, you've got politics, and it's just the way of all of the things. And one of my talking points is that if people would say governmental politics or partisan politics meant, then um, then when somebody else said, well, comics have always been political, or movies have always been political, or art has always been political. Well, that's true, right? Because you've got two people talking about it. It's politics.
Oh yeah, it's the
And
exchange of ideas.
exactly.
That's what
And so
matters the most is the exchange. But that exchange is now two, not always two sides, but in communication, it's usually two sides trying to beat each other over the head with that idea. And it's
yeah,
just that's not a dialogue so much. And
right,
but
exactly. And
politics,
so
yeah,
like
politics should be an exchange of ideas. You don't have to agree
and
with them,
so
but you should be
so
able
when
to
I talk
exchange,
about it
think, and talk about them. Yeah.
when I talk about it to people, I'm like, yeah, people that say it's always political, they're right, but they probably mean it dishonestly. But you're playing into by not saying what you mean. You mean you should be able to be Batman and not be told you're a bad person. That's fair. But to say that Batman is a non-political story, it's about an individual's right to act out the law outside of governmental constraints. It's
Yep.
anarchy. It's political.
No,
You
very
know?
much is.
Yeah.
A
So
lot of those, I mean, even even the symbols that they try to, inherently would be political, like Captain America. They try to, again, it's very difficult to remove that, and so lean into it, fine. But again, you got to leave room for exchange instead of a beating or a shoving. Um, and that is kind of missed on a lot of people in their interpersonal communication these days.
yeah, and I think Twitter's especially bad for it
Yep.
because it's such a short communication that people try to speak in shorthand that isn't universal, and so then it impedes good dialogue. I think.
Yeah, it
Although,
does very much. It allows it to be consumable and blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, its point wasn't quite. I don't know what the point of Twitter was. I know it was a communication thing, but I don't know, what the original idea was for them to communicate. What was being communicated. But now it's been used for so many
yeah,
different things. That of course, the biggest one that they usually try to do. besides data collection, which is probably the biggest on any of these social media sites. But besides that is marketing, and the biggest marketers with the most money are they control the partial discourse. They control the implied area of acceptable discourse, and it's tough because you do want it civil. You want civility, but you also, it should be the free exchange of ideas, and a lot of ideas are not civil and are not ever supposed to be civil. And it's a difficult environment. Humanity and discussing ideas is a difficult freaking environment. We've been at it forever, and we'll be at it forever, hopefully. Just hopefully, hopefully phases of it being kinder. That would be great.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one thing that I think that we can have is we can have disagreements and still be kind. It's difficult. I know I personally struggle with it because when somebody says something really just like, are you paying attention to the words you're saying? Because maybe, my God, that's part of my own tendency. But I know that like I think we can disagree and we can be respectful and kind about it in a way that actually helps everybody learn something more. That's something that I want to see. That's what I want to see in terms of communication. So, on
Yeah.
a side note, Johan Zeke was in the chat. I'm not sure if he still is. He said, "What happened to your arm, Matt? You got in a chemical fight with a chemical truck." Um, no, I have psoriasis. I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, and so all over my arms are lesions of inflammation because my body thinks my skin is trying to invade.
Oh, that's fun. That's
Uh,
fun.
sometimes it's okay. Today is not too bad.
That's good.
Today it was really awful.
Yeah, I bet. I could very much imagine.
So,
I kind of thought with the blur and how much I'm doing kind of other things at the same time. I kind of thought it was some kind of tattoo or something, but
oh no, it's not. It's I wish I had sleeves, but before I could afford them, I started breaking out in lesions. So no more tats for me.
gotcha.
Yeah.
But
Matt
yeah,
C in the chat's also posted a couple things I think is really interesting. When we say loyalty, we're really saying tribalism is our highest principle. Because sometimes our friends need correction. We don't love them if we never correct them.
yeah,
I
no.
think that's
If you cannot have that communication, that exchange of ideas, then you don't really love that person, and you're not doing it in their best interest. If you don't allow the space for the exchange, because even your correction might need a little bit of correction to be true.
exactly,
And
exactly, and that's
but you got
that's
to have
what
the space.
I've
You
said
got
for
to open
years.
that space. It's tough to open that space these days.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing I've said for well, I've said it in this way for probably about a year and a half. Is I like to be right, so I'd rather be corrected than not. Because if I'm not corrected, I'm going to go around being wrong. And I don't want to go around being wrong. I want to be correct. I spend a good amount of my time thinking things through and trying to get a feel around the shape of the world. And if I go and say something stupid, I'd rather somebody call me on it so I can readjust my thinking and be right because that's what I want.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I also think that some ideas and concepts are so grand that a single person could not conceptually hold the truth of the concept in their mind, no matter how hard they truly believe they have it. And so the infinite shades of people that can present different colors, different expressions, different thoughts of that concept, that idea, that grand spectrum. Um, that's what keeps me humble and accepting to those other ideas as often as possible. There's some that are very small ideas that are very wrong, but there's also very big ones that would be impossible to be truly right on. And so that's where I try to land somewhere in the middle of there as often as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key. And one of the things to really pay attention to, and I don't want to only got 10 minutes, so I don't want to open up the religion station today. So I really stand on all that stuff. I think it's regardless of anyone's world, I think it's fairly obvious that the world is just more complex than we can know. We're limited beings, and we can only know so much. To have the arrogance to not, listen to other people's perspective, even if they're incorrect, that's a big friggin' deal. I mean, there's so much in the world that we just need to know, and we sell ourselves short by not listening, I
Yep. And, give us credit. We've been listening to a lot of bullshit for a very long time.
think.
It makes it hard. It makes it hard.
So, with Carl's been redacted? What? What does that even mean?
He had retracted something. I didn't catch the message, but that's pretty
Must
funny. He got
have.
redacted.
Must have. I don't know. So, well, I went ahead and put in the chat again link to the preview for Cactus Coyote on Tapas. In the description, I'm going to edit it to make sure it's got the link to the campaign. Got a week left.
Yeah. Just a week. Place your bets on a very unique, weird Western, weird space Western. I've been trying to include space in there a little bit more because it's very much a space exploration piece, like all Iron First comics. But last week, folks, show us your love. Our first goal at the moment right now is $7,777. It's a long odd. It's a long odd. I'll give you that. But if we can rack up the 3 sevens, it would at least show us that you got some good support and give us that sweet gambling payoff feel, even if perhaps we do not make it. But I think we will. I think we will. Who knows? It's a week. I'm going to be pushing it a lot harder, and I'm going to be excited to do so. We should be getting the last 2 colored pages in from the last 4. Colored pages in here, maybe before the campaign ends. I'm hoping we can get the last 2 that are already on the go colored by then. I think that's doable, and you'll see how fun of a book this looks like. It's really gorgeously done. Andrea Boscolo, the artist, is incredibly talented, and he's been a pro in animation for a time, but of course got jaded with how the mainstream industry ends up treating talents. And so we were happy to welcome his talents into our fold, and really hope to see more of it personally. I love that Looney Tunes style.
Yeah, absolutely. And that classic, I got to tell you, on a closing note from our artistic perspective, it's a crime how much. Sorry, Carl just posted something hilarious. But back to my thing. It's a crime how much that classic Looney Tunes, that classic Max Fleischer and Tex Avery style is present in modern animation and illustration. It's just like a lost art.
It really is. It's a unique art too. It's a very fun one. They're very timeless. It's a timeless style, and I think that adds to the retro kind of Western feel. And of course, we're using a coyote too, so we get the Wile E vibes, of course, a little bit. And he has his gadgets. It really is a passion project that I never knew I'd be a part of, that I'm so happy to be a part of.
That's very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, everybody. If you watch now, you watch later, you tune in. I know I have some. There's 3 or 4 people that come in and watch a little while throughout the week, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Check out what we have going on. Give Cactus Coyote a look if you've got that free space in your wallet. Then go ahead and give them a gift, man. It's and get yourself for the effort. It's got $10. You can get it to your door, right?
Yeah. That's $10 to
Yeah,
your door
that's
as long as you're a domestic backer. We also have it listed as newsprint. That was part of the knocking costs down, but we could easily upgrade to glossy. That would probably be the first stretch goal. If we got a little bit over the funding, wouldn't even take too much. But we wanted to make sure we could do it ourselves, and part of it was the newsprint. But sky's really the limit, and not even the sky. It's really the Iron versus the limit, I guess I would say. There's a lot there. So yeah,
The galactic fabric is the limit.
there you go. There you go. The cosmic strings, man.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to leave Carl with the last word. I think it's better to say, I think a better thing to say than no more politics is less of the author's personal political neurosis interfere with canon. It's a mouthful, but it's correct.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I've just been seeing also is just their own personal style of storytelling being not so much a comic style of storytelling, but that could go for a different day.
I think that's a slightly different complaint, but I do believe it's related.
Yeah, there you go.
That's that is touching on a huge topic that they're not going to get into. The question, why is modern art so bad? And we're not going to get into that tonight. So, so guys, thanks for tuning in. Those who have, those who are, those who will, appreciate that. Check out Cactus Coyote. Give Ironverse a little bit of love. And thanks for tuning into the Mattriarchy. Next week, it's a little ironic given today's events. Tim Lim is going to be joining us, as well as the Metal. I am the Metal. If you follow him on Twitter, he does I can't even say the name of his webcomic, but it's pretty fun. So that's what we're having on next week. Talk about the creative process and a little bit about world building. So that's going to be 7 o'clock Mountain Time, just like always. So thanks for tuning in, and catch you guys later.
Take care, folks. Thank you.